Corporation leases, they survive in good detail. The minutes of the Town Council, once it was formed in 1835, they have a lot of references, as do the newspapers at the time. The census returns, of course, are very useful from 1841. And then there's registers of leases. There's one that was produced in the 1970s and 80s, which I just digitised. It's in the record office. And that refers to the earliest date of the lease, the earliest lease for that particular plot. So we've got a lot of detail there. And that now consists of 6,000 entries on a spreadsheet. So the court deed tells us things like John Jones, ropemaker of Wrexham, shall have a piece of common land. So this is land they didn't really want to let out, extending along the fence from Bryndiodder leading to the turnpike gate for 11 years for use as a rope walk, 200 yards in length, not exceeding 8 foot in breadth, for 10 shillings per annum. That's 1778, and a few years later Thomas Johns, the shipbuilder, took over the rope building there. And we can see the rope walk on this drawing by David Cox. That is it. And it still survives in ghosts in the town, behind the town hall. So this is all the records from those deeds in the record office for the town corporation plots. And this is just for number 3 Baker Street. So we've got a lot of deeds referring to it, and more that I can put on here for more recent. So we've got the very first reference of a grant in 1797. And then we've got references to mortgages, assignments, and even a prenuptial agreement, which is really nice. So all of those refer to just one house in town, and we've got the same for many, many other houses in town now. So all of that is there, waiting to be sorted out. I've also been through a lot of visitors' descriptions for other reasons as well. And this is my favourite person, Catherine Hutton. And this really paints colour into the black and white picture that we've got so far. Betty, the old sea guide, says, we walk out of all reason. I am careless and happy, and twice I have danced at the ball in the Talbot. The first time my partner was a clergyman, who would have been my partner for life, had I been so disposed. Nor is the clergyman my only captive. I was one day singing with our windows open, little imagining that anyone would be charmed with the voice of the siren. A gentleman, however, was listening and was caught, and then he joined Catherine and his mother. And he said he was only 8 and 40, and that if I would marry him, he would keep me a carriage. I believe the gentleman's 8 and 50. I do not want a carriage, but I do not want a carriage, but I did want society. Were I to stay here much longer, his attentions would render the place insupportable. And when she left, she said Aberystwyth was the only place I ever left, wishing that I might not see her again, which is very sad. I'm extremely fond of her, and I really think her diary need republishing, and I've been working on that too. This thing about the carriage was really important, because when they came to Aberystwyth, they hired a carriage. The father, William Hutton, who was famous for writing history of Birmingham and walking along Hadrian's Wall when he was 80-something, he had to walk back to Shrewsbury to get a carriage to go on to Birmingham. There was not a single carriage in Aberystwyth available for rent. So it's really nice to have this sort of lovely detail put in. As far as pictures are concerned, this is the earliest picture we know that exists of Aberystwyth. This is where Terrace Road is. This is the windmill in Windmill Court. And there is no Castle House because it's just before Castle House was built. And I think it must be the first St Michael's Church. And then this is a very similar view, but slightly later, with Bonsal's Row, which is behind the library. This was built as a series of lodging houses. The first visitors stayed in there and had a view of the sea northwards, not on the prom itself, but in that position. Of course, there are houses in the way now. This is Terrace Road, and Castle House is there, I think. And this is the end of Pier Street with the Customs House, where their Cambrian building, hotel is now. Then we've got Thomas Rowlandson's lovely picture of 1796, but there are more pictures turning up, and I went to the Wick Library in Somerset House in London recently and found this, which is also Thomas Rowlandson, another view of the harbour, which is lovely, but I don't know where the original is. That's a scan of a photocopy of a copy. It would be really nice to find the original. So they are turning on. Now, Last March, a whole series of paintings of Aberystwyth came up for sale in Shrewsbury, and I went to have a look at them, thinking they would just be the usual views of the town. They're all by a man called Becker, a German who visited Aberystwyth in 1808 and came back in 1812 for his honeymoon. Sadly, although every single picture is numbered in sequence, the auctioneers deliberately put all the Aberystwyth pictures in all 12 lots, and there was no way I could buy them, because the whole lot went for about £20,000. Fortunately, a lot of them were bought by Miles Wincato of the gallery in London, and he and I did a deal. I described them all in detail, and he let me have £250 off the total price. So I bought 9 of them for £2,000, and I got a 50% grant from the V&A to buy them. I still haven't found anybody to pay for the other 1,000 yet, but I'm going to ask the friends in the museum tomorrow if they'll do it, and I think they'll say yes. I hope so anyway. Anyway, I can identify in detail a lot of these pictures. This is Buskery. This is North Parade here, and those houses show up on an early map, so I'm convinced that they're correct. And it's really nice to have the detail of the buildings with these really large chimneys. And we might know later on who lived in those. It would be really nice to work that one out. This is the Cleveland Well, where the garage station is by what was Beewise. I don't know what it's called now. And this is the Milllead. This is Buskery Avenue. In fact, the Milllead ran along here. So it's possible to identify all of that. This one I can't identify. I actually, if I'd seen that digitally, I would have said it's been turned right round. But I cannot identify it. There were 2 little bridges that crossed the Lead, one called Waterloo Bridge, and I can't remember the name of the other one. But there were 2 bridges that crossed the Mill Lead where Alexandra Road are now. And that could be one of them, but I can't locate the rest of the buildings. But it's quite clearly Aberystwyth. This is the first St Michael's Church, and it's the best picture we got of it. And there were 2 versions of this, one framed and this one. I haven't bought these, but they're still for sale, and I might go for this one. And it shows a very substantial ditch there, which once formed part of the defences of the castle, and that hasn't appeared on any other illustration that we've got. This is a very peculiar picture, and I don't think it's terribly accurate at all. I think that must be Castle House, but it's a very, very bad representation of it. And the rest of it is very peculiar. I didn't buy that one. There's this, again, I didn't buy, but I know who's got it, and I know we can borrow it. This is Sir Hugh Middleton's house in Bridge Street, which was demolished in 1837, and there's another drawing of that in another document, which tells us it was Hugh Middleton's house. So it's really nice, this very strange staircase going up into the building, enormous chimneys which show up on all of these drawings. Some lovely detail there that really brings the town to life at this period. This one I can't identify either, but again there's some really interesting features here. Steps going up to a first floor entrance, what I think may be a pigsty there. This is a roof coming right down to lean-to. Some nice detail in the windows, it's got lead glazing in it. I just can't work out where that is, unfortunately, but again, it's Aberystwyth. No other artist was drawing the interior of the town, they all drew the prom. This one I can identify very easily. This is Bonsal's Terrace, rock houses in this sort of area. I know exactly what that house is. One of these is the chapel in Baker Street. I'm not sure what that is, but it's in Bryndiodde, the rock on which the bathhouse was built. The next picture is of this area in a bit more detail. And there it is with the lantern, which I knew about from other documents. This is for seafarers. And these steps are where the steps are now, but they were altered, and I know they were altered because I've got a reference to them being altered in 1824. So those steps more or less still exist, except they come straight down, down a slightly different way. So it's lovely to have that, and we've got another picture of the other lantern, which I've known about from documents. And these are the only ones in existence of them. And then this is Trevecca. Again, I can identify the buildings to a certain extent, with Pendennis in the background. And another one of Trevecca with the line coming right in the middle. That's really nice to have that sort of detail. And this is the colours. This is exactly what they are. They're sort of grey wash. So they'll be going online soon. This is the very first photograph we got of the town from Constitution Hill. There's the bathhouse. It's a rather odd structure. where the Queen's Hotel was built in there. And the rest of the buildings are very easily identified. That's been published in several books on Aberystwyth.